How do you identify personally and in engineering contexts?
I would describe myself as a white transgender male who has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression and ADHD. I think people would see me and assume that I was born male from hearing my voice, and I wouldn't be perceived as transgender.
What are some identity-related challenges you've experienced in engineering?
So, going to a large institution has been hard because I do have very bad social anxiety, and that also stems in part from me being transgender because, even though I'm comfortable with who I am as a person, I feel like sometimes I do want to hide it from people. I know the world itself is becoming more inclusive, but I have also run into issues with people misgendering me, my name, and my pronouns and such. Like, I've had people who have found out that I'm transgender, and they're kind of like, okay, wait, hold on, so you were a girl, but now you're a guy, which is really confusing. Are you a guy or a girl? And it's like they never had an issue perceiving me as a guy before I told them, and then now that I tell them, and all of a sudden it's an issue for them that they're confused about if I'm a guy or a girl. I'd rather just be perceived as a man by others. Also, at my institution, your legal name appears on your email. So, legally, my name has not been officially changed completely. So, my email still does appear as my old name. And so I've emailed my professors saying like, hey, just so you know, I am transgender and this is the name I go by. These are my pronouns I go by. But if stuff does appear under my legal name, just know that's also who I am. I've had some professors be super, super sweet about it. I've also had some professors who respond to it sort of short with me. And I've also had professors who will read the email and acknowledge it, and then they'll still go and get confused about my pronouns, or they'll refer to me by my dead name. And so it just kind of hard because I'm not super confrontational when it comes to those things. Like, I don't really want to act on it. I don't feel the need to correct them, but obviously it is something that needs to be corrected, so that causes a bit of an issue in that situation. In terms of my ADHD, I think the most obvious impact would probably just be my focus. I'm not the type of person who can just sit there on the spot and it clicks in my head, like they're teaching something and all of a sudden I just understand it. And I think that's the way for a lot of people. Sitting through an hour and 20 minutes of lectures is quite difficult, and just sitting back and watching somebody work through a problem doesn't really help me learn. For me, I learn from actually physically doing the problem myself and being able to work through it and seeing the steps play out. So I feel like the way engineering is taught, it would be more beneficial for somebody like me to be able to sit and work through the problems rather than having them worked through for you. Particularly in classes where we do a lot of discussion, we'll be asked to discuss with people around us. And a lot of times it feels like there's this extra pressure put on my back to get it right or know what the answer is supposed to be, even when in theory it's just discussion. I feel like a lot of times I come off a little standoffish, and I think most people don't understand that it's hard for me to express what I have learned and prove that I am smart enough to comprehend what's going on. And a lot of people, I feel like, kind of take that for granted, like share whatever they please. And it's like when I'm not contributing answers in a group discussion, they'll get frustrated with me. So I get frustrated that I'm not contributing to the work and helping out, whereas they don't understand or see that it's actually just a mental struggle to be able to express it to them and to say like what I feel and come up with the right answer. I guess it's like inner perfectionism. Like, I can't mess it up and I can't, ruin the project or something along those lines. So I feel like people may see me as being the kid that slacks off or the kid not super into learning the material. And so a lot of the time I end up working alone. But then I like to talk with my professors at office hours just to get a better grip on the material, but also sort of to make that personal connection with them. And I like to have somebody else to bounce ideas off of if need be. For instance, if I need extra help working on a project, they've been more than willing to go through it with me and help me as much as I need. I did a pretty lengthy programming project last year, and most people worked in groups, and I was able to work alone. The professors let me, and I pretty much went to every single office hour just to bounce ideas off of them. So they were really good about that, and I became quite close with the professor, and we worked on a project this semester together. So that was cool. To be honest, I talk to my professors more than I talk to my peers. A lot of the time in lectures, you don't talk to your professor, you listen to your professors. And you kind of get this image of like, all right, they're strict and all they do is teach. And it comes across as very one-sided when you're listening to their lecture on a topic and you don't really get to know who they are as a person or see that other side of them. So going to office hours, you're able to sit and talk through a solution, and you're able to see like how they would approach helping a student out with an issue, even a personal issue. I had a professor, and after going to their office hours, we'll talk about hobbies or the recent exam that we took, and there will be jokes that are thrown into the conversation. So it's more like, I guess, personal connection, seeing them as a person rather than as a professor. I think it just kind of gives you that inside scoop. Professors get to know you and you get to know them, which can be a win-win on both ends.
What would you say to a professor about these issues if you had a chance?
If given a chance, I would probably say to my professors, maybe slow it down a little bit during class. For some people, it might be a bit harder to catch on as fast, so work through it a little slower. But I mean, obviously, with time constraints, that could be a bit challenging. I don't think I've had many professors who do too much to accommodate students or someone like me. For like accessibility accommodations or mental health issues and other personal trauma, most professors talk about resources during the syllabus week, but from there on, it's out of sight. It never really comes up again. So it's kind of like a one and done. You have the first day of classes, they go over it all, and then you don't really hear about it much more after that. To help myself focus, I'll bring a Rubik's Cube into class because I'm very into solving Rubik's Cubes, and it just gives me something to fidget with throughout class. But I have been told by some people to put it away as if it's a distraction to others, whereas in terms of who I am, it's like that's how I pay attention, that's how I work. My brain is able to focus by using that. And so that sort of becomes an issue. I wish that there was more diversity and more representation in the diversity in engineering, because I mean, a lot of the times you go to class and it's like a 200-person lecture and 150 out of 200 kids are males, like white males. And so I feel like just having that representation, like more females in the classroom. Obviously, engineering as a major, it's not super popular for women, I guess, but more diversity in that sense, more representation of said diversity would help. Like showing people that these people exist too in this major. I feel like that's something that I would appreciate.